If you dream of your motorcycle, if your day isn't complete without some time in the saddle, if all you need is the open road and a full tank of gas, well, you've come to the right place because this is Throttled, and it's starting now. Here's your host, Kevin McKinney.
Hello and welcome back to Throttled, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. I think we've got a pretty good show lined up for you. Tonight, it seems to be just Larry and I. So back to our original duo. Should be a good show. We got a topic for everybody and then maybe some news articles. And if the plans go accordingly, we may round it out with a trip to the paddock. We'll have to just wait and see. So, Larry, man, how you doing?
Hey, Kev, I'm doing pretty good, actually, all things considered. The pandemic out here is still going strong, so we're still hunkering down. But I get out every day to do a bike ride or a motorcycle ride, and and that makes me happy. To tell the truth, the weather has been too beautiful. We need more rain, but it's been too beautiful, and so it's been just a pleasure to get out and do stuff. I'm not really that down about the fact that we have to hunker down, and I finally got an appointment to get my vaccine, so I'm looking forward to starting that process so that I can feel a little bit more secure. So how about you? How are things going?
I mean, we're going all right. Working too much, and my wife's heavily involved with the vaccinations in our area, so she's running nonstop almost every day, or actually every day. So, I've been with the kids a ton, and they've kind of taken a lot of my time. But I was able to drop them off at my parents' house last night. We celebrated my brother's birthday, and then I took a little bit of time today and went riding, and then went and hung out with some people I know, and we came here, got ready, and here we are. So
here we are.
It was a good day. It was a little chilly this morning on that ride. I didn't ride for too long, just needed to get out, get some wind and on top of the helmet, and enjoyed it, really did. Did just a little short ride out and back and around and piddled on the bike. But, I needed that time just away from the house because I don't get away from the house much, and then and everything. So it was a good time. What about you? Did you actually get out and ride any on your motorcycle? I think you said you did.
I did, actually. I got out earlier in the week, and I did a ride up. It's a loop that I really like. I go up through Smith Ranch Road, past George Lucas's estate, and then through Nicasio and past the reservoirs, and then into Point Reyes, and then from Point Reyes Station I go down the coast on Highway 1, which is always a beautiful ride, and I do a lot of twisties and very sharp bends going up Highway 1, along the Pacific coast. And, it takes about 2 hours to do the ride. I know it's about 60 miles maybe. But it was a beautiful day. It was a beautiful ride. I was really enjoying the bike. While I was riding, I was thinking about my critique of the bike last week, how I felt the bike was kind of boring. And I have to say that although that's valid, I think the bike is a very neutral bike. It is a pleasure to ride. It does everything that it's supposed to do. It doesn't do anything that it's not supposed to do. And what more could I ask for? What am I complaining about? So that it was a good ride and it was a good week. How about you, Kev? Oh, you said you did a little bit of local rides.
Yeah. Got a little bit out there, so it was good. Good. My bike was still my bike, I'm really having a hard time refraining from going ahead and buying some Farkles and stuff for the bike. But I need to do what's right now and not do that. So I'm having to hold back just a bit.
So I have a question for you. What do you have a sense of what this bike does better than the Tenere? How is it an improvement for you?
To me, it's weighted. I can flip it better, side to side, flick it, I guess you'd say.
Center of gravity is lower.
Center of gravity is lower. I really notice it if I'm standing up on it. Just it seems much more maneuverable. I do feel like I sit lower into the bike. It's more responsive, and I can turn off the ABS. So now I haven't got to use the turned off ABS yet, but that's probably the main thing, because there's been several times when I have been off road on the Tenere, and you could just, it's like I would love to be able to turn off that ABS. It comes on and it's surging, and it's really hard when you are locking up the rear brake, but you're using the front brake to slow down as well, to have that surge. And yeah, it's probably not the right technique, but that was the situation, and you just got that surging going. It was a problem. So, and I'm trying to start playing with the bikes more if I do get off road. And that's just part of it, trying to slide the tires and stuff like that. Is it completely necessary? No, but it's kind of what I'm wanting to start doing, and getting more comfortable with the bike moving underneath me intentionally. That way, if it ever happens unintentionally, I feel like I can respond better. Is there any logic to that or validity to that? We have to wait and see. So, but I do like the power that it has in it. It's just refined. The Tenere is it's a good bike. It's not great at anything, but it's good at a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's like the Versys.
But that's just Yamaha, Kawasaki. I mean, that's kind of Japanese manufacturers on these kind of bikes. They don't excel as in they're the best, but they're good enough. And if somebody will tell me they were wanting to look at a Tenere because it was, after you buy it out the door in America, it's cheaper by a considerable amount, go for it, because you can get those below MSRP. Whereas you're not going to get that great of a deal on a BMW.
Yeah.
And I guess another thing is it's different. There's always the new, fresh thing that appeals to you more. 2 years from now, I'll be like, this is a problem, but we'll wait and see. So our topic today is additional cost of owning a motorcycle. And so we're gonna pretend we buy a bike and we get it to the house. So it's there, it's delivered, it's ready to go. Or is it? So, or I'll say you're ready to go, or are you? Maybe a better way of phrasing that. What do you think of as some additional cost to riding?
Well, I guess I'll go take this on, and I had some thoughts about this. Well, when I get a new bike, honestly, one of the first things I think about is how well my riding gear and helmet matches the bike. And I'm a little embarrassed to admit that when I get a new bike, I also am inclined to get riding gear and a helmet that goes along with it. And that was true when I got my my second Harley, and it was true when I got the Versys. I kind of got new gear to go along with the color scheme of the bike, and also with the style. So my gear for the Versus is a little bit more venture oriented than it was for the Harley. That being said, I still use both sets of gear depending on the weather conditions. And but I do use the same helmet, the new helmet that I got to sort of color coordinate with the Versus. So that was one expense that I, in addition to the bike itself. Other things that I have to that I didn't really think about when you buy the bike, but that goes along with it. I spent money, of course, on Bluetooth for the helmet, and a bracket for the Bluetooth that was specific to the helmet. And then the Versus is chain driven, so I had to get chain cleaner and lube, and a lift stick so that I could, lift the rear wheel off the ground and to lubricate the chain. And other things that go along with the bike. You have to pay for well, you don't have to, but I don't service the bike myself. When it needs the oil changed and other stuff done, I take it into somebody to do that, and that's a additional cost. Of course, registering the bike every year with the state, and that's a couple of $100 there. And the final thing that I thought of is that I've taken riding classes, and those add to the cost, but obviously are well worth it, and were fun to do as well. So that's about. Those are the things I thought about. What about you, Kevin? What additional costs have you incurred?
Well, I don't do the gear change, and one reason is I guess the style of bike hasn't changed much. Well, let me go back. Let me. So when I had the what was it? The Yamaha. Oh, what was that bike? My brain's not working. Anyway, when I had the little cruiser 900 V-Star 900, it, I being the cruiser guy and just getting back into it, I did the traditional riding jeans with a full face helmet, and I did a mesh jacket. Once I went with the ADV bike, I started looking at stuff that was more comfortable long term, things that would hold up for travel that I feel like I'd be more comfortable in, and specifically travel that was in the middle of the Alabama summers. So you're talking high heat, extreme high humidity, and the pants that I was wearing, they just didn't really, they were just really hot. I still got them, still wear them, but not on super hot days. Another thing I was looking at was I wanted more protection for my ankles than the cheap built boots that I had. They had the shank in the bottom, steel toed, but above that, there was no ankle protection. Very thin rubber, typical beginner cruiser type of boot. And so getting the adventure bike and then looking at, okay, well, this is the adventure gear, and I hesitated to go in that direction. Because at the time I was thinking, I'm not going to be off road a lot, and I just didn't feel that it was necessary. But after I started looking at hot weather riding, the textile material seemed to make more sense. I didn't want leathers, and the mesh, I'd already found out that the mesh didn't really seem to cool me off that much. So I went with the whole textile adventure suit. When it was time for me to get a new helmet, I got the RF 1200 from Shoei, and I did get it to match the gear that I got, the Revit Sands 2 gear. I had red, white, and blue gear. So I got kind of a red, white, and blue helmet. Having a red bike at the time, it matched. Having a bluish bike now, it kind of matches. So that, happy accident. When it comes time for, that gear is starting to show its age. That gear is 5 years old. And so it is starting to show its age. It may be actually, it's coming up on 6 years old for the actually all the riding gear except for the helmet. So, I may have to do one. But so riding gear, I would admit, riding gear is a major cost that a lot of people, I don't think, look at it as kind of like I did at the beginning. All right, I'm going to get a jacket and some pants and a helmet. And after a while, the $100 here, the $150, $200 here, and I started thinking about it of I don't want to get the cheap stuff. Because I want it to work. A lot of people are just like, oh, just go get any old pair of gloves. Well, no, any old pair of gloves, or these leather gloves, and you hear stories. Oh, I slid and they did just fine. If they're not made to take that kind of abuse, I'd try to stay away from them. Maybe it was just I was being too safety conscious, but I bought medium tier stuff. That's what I think I did. I was like, hey, this is right in the middle, not cheap, not super expensive. It checks all the boxes for me. So now one thing that I have talked to a lot of motorcyclists about during the classes, and they kind of forget about, is insurance for the bike. What are you going to do? Have you already checked before you buy the bike what the insurance on it's going to be? Start shopping that beforehand. Because they can usually give you pretty close to, hey, if you bought, this type of bike, you're looking at this range, that to be able to tell you how much it's going to cost monthly, because that's a recurring cost, whether it's monthly, semi-annually, or annually. So don't forget about that as well. That's a huge factor.
It's true. It's true. I'm just checking to remind myself how much I pay for the motorcycle insurance. And that is about two. No, that's my Mercedes. Let's see. Versus, I pay about $600 a year for the motorcycle insurance.
Yeah. And that it depends on, if you're just getting basic liability, I think I mentioned this on the show a few weeks ago. Be careful about that, because when that liability runs out, you're still liable for the rest of the amount. So you need to make sure.
That's not for basic.
Yeah.
You
need to make sure you get insurance that will help you out here. Some automobile, and I could be wrong here because I'm not an insurance expert, but just because you have automobile insurance, that doesn't necessarily transfer to you riding on a motorcycle. Mm-hmm. It depends on how your agency qualifies that activity. So, if it's and they may look at it as, well, this is a hobby. This isn't operating a vehicle. And so we look at these as recreational vehicles, not transportation, because they're going to look at for any reason to deny your claim. So, if you want medical, if you want things like that, take that into consideration. You also need to take into consideration what kind of riding you're going to be doing. If you're going way back in the mountains and, most of your riding is on forest roads and things like that, you may not need a ton of liability, but what you may need is more health and emergency services kind of stuff. So, take that in consideration as well. Now, outside of your gear, right, your boots, your gloves, helmet, some kind of eye protection, and your jacket, pants, whatever you're going to do. And, Larry, you kind of hit on it, right? There's a huge thing about how are you going to maintain this bike? Do you have the tools that you need? Because let me tell you, BMW owners, I hope you have all the Torx wrenches you need, because good God. do you have what you need to work on the bike for simple stuff? Just to take the plastics off, to hook up some simple little thing to the battery. Or, if you're somebody that's going to change their oil, do you have the tools that you need to be able to do that? Adjust the handlebars. I mean, those kind of things sometimes require special tools. Do you have them? How much is that going to cost for you to do? If your bike is like Larry, you got chain and everything. Do you have, and you're doing that at a regular interval, do you have that? Have you thought about that in your pricing it out? So take that in consideration as well. Outside of that, so if you have regular scheduled maintenance and you're not going to be doing it yourself, a lot of people, most of us probably don't do our own valve checks. So, what does it cost to do a valve check on your bike at your dealership? And, depending on the bike, they're very proud of their time, and they're going to, charge you just in labor alone is going to be a lot of money. So just keep all this in the back of your mind. Just like, hey, yeah, I can get on the bike and I can ride it, but can you afford to have it? Kind of like buying a plane, right? Buying a plane is not the expensive part. Hiring the pilot and paying for the hangar and the fuels and the maintenance and the safety checks annually and all this other stuff, that's where the real cost comes into buying a plane. The actual writing a check and purchasing it in the long run is the easy part. The hard part is all that other stuff that you have to do during that time frame.
Good points. But when all is said and done, it's still cheaper to maintain the motorcycle than it is to maintain a car. But you still have to take into account all these additional costs. And
I would almost mile per mile. Not for me. I mean,
really?
Yeah. I mean, an oil change for my car is $25. And that's taking it someplace. I don't have to get my valves checked. I don't have to go through all these other checks. I just, every 7,500 miles or so, have to take it in, get the oil changed, and I put gas in it. Tires are much cheaper tires, honestly, for my truck are just a few $100s over the mileage that I get on my bike, and I got to change those out 4 times as much. So motorcycle maintenance costs for me are higher by the time you take the service intervals and what they do during them. If you're going with the mechanic to mechanic, tires alone, just tires is more expensive over the same mileage period for a car over a motorcycle than all of the cost to maintaining the vehicle. And I'd say that's up to 100,000 miles.
How many miles are you figuring for the tires?
Well, motorcycle tires, I'll be generous and give you 9.
Okay, so let's round that out to 10. And,
right.
And for cars, what would you say, 50?
Yeah.
Okay, so that would mean 5 sets of motorcycle tires for one set for the car.
And that comes out to, say you're getting, we'll say, I don't know, I mean, a set of tires, mid-range, $400 for a set?
For the motorcycle?
Yeah.
Not for me. I have a Mercedes. Oh.
No, for a motorcycle. For a motorcycle.
Oh, the motorcycle. Yeah.
400.
Yeah.
So you're looking at, we said 5, that's $2,000. And my truck tires, nice quality truck tires, $1,000 for 4 tires. So it's twice as much. And then that's not even counting with the BMW, the timing adjustments and all that stuff that they do, valve checks and all that stuff. You need a extra kidney to sell for that stuff, right? So that's why, that's one reason why I'm wanting to, when it gets time on this one, to do the oil changes myself, because I feel like that's a place that I can save, and I want to be able to be more hands-on with it. So, I mean, just, apples to apples, to me, the motorcycle is more expensive to maintain long term.
Well,
you do save money on fuel. I will admit that, right? Unless you've got an electric vehicle, you're most likely will save money. And for me, it's 3 to 1. I can go 3 times as far on a gallon on my motorcycle as I can in my truck. But I don't think that adds up. Well, over 50,000 miles, does that add up to be $1,000 to equal the tire? We'll look into that. If you take fuel into account, which to me goes beyond maintenance, but whatever. Back to, and unless you had something else to add, Larry, back to the additional costs. What other additional costs? So we've covered maintenance, we've covered gear, we've covered insurance, and I guess in our maintenance conversation we covered tires, since we kind of just talked about that. So what else?
Sonic's pointed out that he got a tank bag for his bike, and I got one for mine as well. So there is the if the bike doesn't come with bags, then there's the cost if you want or need them of adding, side bags, top case, or tank bags to the bike.
All right, so luggage.
Yeah,
luggage, and maybe not just one set of luggage, right? Because you might want soft, if you're dual sporting, you might want soft luggage for when you go on off-road. But, when you're on road and you're traveling on road, you might want some hard cases and stuff. So multiple sets of luggage or multiple combinations of luggage, multiple types of bags. So that's a good point. If your bike doesn't come with it, which unless you get a touring bike, and not even all touring bikes have luggage on them. Most cruisers do. Adventure bikes, 50-50. I guess the more expensive the bike, the less chances you get luggage on it. I think that's how that works.
well, it also depends on the model. Obviously, they have touring models. Like my bike is the touring model, so it comes with the side bags, but not the top case, and not a tank bag.
Yeah, there's not a lot of bikes. I don't know of any bikes actually that come with tank bags. Do you?
No.
I know that everybody and their mother sells a tank bag, but that's something that I was thinking about doing myself, is what kind of tank bag would I ever want to get.
I can't survive without it. It's so handy,
I enjoy it on the KTM. I've got one of the KTM, and that's the only I've got that, and I've got the little emergency kit that I take with me. So I've got those two things on the KTM, and I do have some metal panniers for the KTM. I just never. They're just literally they're really good at holding up stuff in my garage. So,
I was thinking, you pointed out that there are tools that you need to take along with you, and I have a battery charger, a jump kit for the motorcycle, as well as a pump, portable pump and tire repair kit that I carry with me if I'm doing any extended trips. So those were all additional costs.
First aid kit.
First aid, absolutely.
I've invested in that, and
yeah.
First aid kit, like you said, things to change the tire. I've got everything to change a tire except for getting the tire off the bike. I could do everything but kick the tire off the bike. So that's how well prepared I am. So yeah, that's like you said, that's a big hurdle there. Now, what about, obviously there's registrations, trying to go back to my list here, registration and all that, titling and everything that you may have to do in your state, which varies. Some states it's outrageous, in other states it's like $20, so that depends.
$200 for me.
Oh yeah, I don't remember what it was for me. The county I live in Alabama is just a gorgy. It's twice as much as I was paying before I moved over here for everything, and it's almost more than that. So hey, there was something else. Oh, okay. So we got our basic riding gear that we're going to be comfortable with and riding in. We've got our maintenance stuff. We've talked about registrations and insurances and all that good stuff. So now we're talking about creature comforts and convenient items, right? Mm-hmm. So let's work from the front of the bike backwards. And I'm going to go with things we're going to put on the handlebar. First off, for a lot of riders, it's going to be some kind of phone mount, right? Are they super expensive? Not really. But depends on what your expensive is. I mean, this stuff starts adding up. If you start doing this all at one point, a $50 or $35 phone mount, it adds to the total, definitely. So, a phone mount. Another thing that a lot of people have is they have to buy some kind of USB charger to plug into their bike or to wire into their bike, so they could charge their phone as they're going down the road, right? If you are an individual who wants some kind of navigation and you don't want to use Google and things like that on your phone, you're looking at some kind of GPS system that mounts to your bike or mounts to your handlebar and the mount that goes with it to make that happen. You've got that cost and that expense. Trying to think, what else is there?
Windscreen?
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 Yeah. I mean,
either you add it to a bike that doesn't have it, or you use a custom windscreen for a bike that may have it, but they're inadequate, which is what my experience has been with most of the bikes, is that either they didn't come with the windscreen or they didn't have an adequate windscreen, and so that was additional cost.
Well, and you may be one of the people that you can ride year round, but in the winter times you want more of a windbreak. You want a solid, just keep me out of the wind, tombstone. You don't care if you look through it type of shield. And then the summer times you want to go more of a sporty shield and your head's in the wind, and that may be 2 additional shields that you're getting. And you may need to get brackets and braces for the larger one to keep it from flexing and rattling. Another particular thing, a lot of headlights on these bikes that aren't LED are absolutely horrible. So at a minimum, you're probably going to want to change out the bulb to something that's brighter. At a maximum, you're looking at buying additional auxiliary lights to be able to light up the roads more. And so those can get expensive in that, right? And we're still talking about just the front column of the motorcycle here. What else? What else do we clamp on? Oh, for our cruisers, our coffee drinkers, cup holder, right? That's a very popular thing for our open-faced helmet people. Oh, okay. So I just thought of something. Camelback. I use a Camelback when I'm riding, and especially if I'm going long distance to get something to drink out of. I mean, it's hot. You're going to be sweating. You want to replenish those fluids. You don't want to have to pull over every 15 minutes to do that. A Camelback is a great way to do that. So you get a Camelback. Again, just another additional thing. What else are we looking at here? So back to the handlebars. I think that covers it for me.
Well, there are driving lights. You had mentioned the headlights, changes in headlights and taillights and stuff. There are also driving lights, which can be important. There are also engine guards, skid plates, guards for your side bags, which actually can be pretty costly.
I mean, engine guards, you're looking at several $100s for engine guards. And then some kind of skid plate, bash plate, something like that, depending on what you're going to do, how beefy you want it. Those are, again, several $100s. And you got to worry about those being able to match up because, sometimes your engine, your skid guard underneath it, your skid plate underneath the bike can prevent you from using certain manufacturers' engine guards because it covers mounting holes, depending on how far up on the side it comes. So sometimes you got to look at getting something that's completely integrated, or something that somebody else has tried, and you make this modification and you can make it happen, which I try to steer away from personally. And then if you've got a bagger, they make things that actually protect the bags and the luggage off the back, like Larry mentioned. So protections, we'll just say protection of vital systems, radiator guards, radiator screens, headlight, some headlights, a lot of people get because it's just they're expensive to replace, they get a little screen or extra plastic to go on the headlight, so that doesn't get messed up. So in LED, so back to the LED thing, replacing LED turn signals with LED turn signals that are legal. I won't say that, not the little things that aren't legal, but that legal, front and back, legal brakes. A brake modulator is something that maybe an investment you want to make on a bike, where you hit the brakes and the brake flashes to make people aware that, oh yes, I am braking.
Yeah, I had that on my Harley.
Yep. And let's see, what else? Oh, a new seat. I mean, let's be real.
Seats.
How many people really ride on the stock seat of their bike long term for the time they own the bike? Right, a lot of us, probably I would say the vast majority, 75% or more, if I had to guess. We're going to change the seat out. Right, so that's another one. Sonic's put something in the chat just now, a louder horn. Meep. That doesn't do a lot for a lot of people, right? We want to be heard, so we're going to go with a louder horn and really make sure that we can be heard. And the people that put the train horns on their Harley, it's hilarious. But maybe a little much, just slightly. And I think we cover luggage. The luggage comes with mounting systems too. Foot pegs, that's one thing that a lot of people, their foot pegs or flow boards or some kind of highway peg. You're changing your comfort level there. Maybe you want a lower peg. Maybe you need to work on the suspension, lower the suspension down a little bit because the bike's too tall and you want to lower the suspension down. That'd be a cost.
With the Harleys, I think that it's also advantageous to get aftermarket suspensions, rear shocks and new springs in the front shocks, because the ones that they supply usually are not very adequate.
I can't speak to that one, so I'll take your word for it.
Take my word for it.
Yep. All right. Anything else you could think of? I mean, we just rattled off a list of stuff, right? So if this is your first episode listening to the show, first, thank you and welcome. Secondly, we just rattled off a bunch of stuff. Is this stuff you have to do on day one? Absolutely not. Right. But you need to take into consideration of what is my long-term goal here? Don't go into a showroom and trade in your bike that you've already got fitted out with everything. And then you go look at what all you got to build back up to. And it takes time and it takes some money as well. So make sure you keep that in the back of your minds there.
Yeah, and since you mentioned it, one of the things you should consider is that don't expect to get your money out of all the farkles that you put on a bike or changes when you sell it. For the most part, all of that stuff doesn't really count unless you have a buyer that really values something in particular. But if you use a bike and trade it into a dealer, they could care less about all the mods and stuff you added to the bike.
It's pretty much free, right? All that stuff, when you add stuff to a bike, especially if you trade it in, it's free. They don't look at it at all. Now, when they go back and sell the bike, they're going to charge for it.
Exactly.
Right. But when they're paying you for the bike, they don't take that into consideration at all. And is it right? Probably not. But it's what they do. You're better off selling it privately. It's going to take longer, most likely, but you'll get more value out of it long term. But if you're needing that cash to buy the new bike, that just means you're longer without it. And, if you're willing to do that, then go for it.
Yeah, from the dealer's point of view, they would prefer the bike that had no additional stuff on it that was completely standard. That's their preference, and so they could care less about all the mods that you put on the bike.
Yeah, I mean, if you're wanting to maximize reselling the bike, the best thing to do is to keep a lot of your original parts, put that back on it. You'll get the same price as long as they're not damaged, and they match cosmetically what you might have done to the bike, and then try to sell those privately at just heavily discounted. You might get a couple $100 more. Windshields, if they're not bag scratched or anything like that, can be resold. Grips, leave them on the bike. Certain things you leave on the bike, right? But auxiliary lights and stuff like that, if depending on what you had to do to mount them, you may want to leave them or take them off. All right. Well, Larry, are you ready to talk about Harley Davidson just for a minute?
Sure. I was just noting that Ed has joined us, and he's talking about trading in his 1200 RT for something smaller. Ed, the 1200 RT was my dream bike, but I understand, we're those of us that are aging out are looking at smaller, easier to manage bikes. So let's maybe for another show, Ed, we'll talk about what to downsize to as you get older. Might be an interesting topic. So Harley, of course, Harley's making the news again, and again, it's in a kind of negative way. This is a little confusing, but the basic idea of the story is that Harley once again is modifying their website, and they're kind of pulling out. Initially, it looked like they were pulling out the parts of the website that showed the projected models for electric bikes. And so this created the impression that Harley was, you okay there, Kev?
Yeah, just swallowed something and it went down the wrong pipe.
I see.
Yeah.
So it created the impression that Harley was withdrawing their support and their plans for electric bikes in the future. And this included the Livewire. The speculation was that even the Livewire might not be a model that's continued in the future. So depending on the market, depending on where you access the website, apparently different bikes appear on it. We know that Harley removed the Bronx Street Fighter from their website, and it looks like that model will not be forthcoming. But they had also removed their electric concept models from the future vehicles page on the website. Now, apparently they reinstalled a page, but it had different models of future electric bikes on it. So when Harley was contacted and asked about these changes, they said that basically they're committed to the electrification of motorcycles, and they claim that the Livewire is now the #1 selling electric motorcycle in the United States. And so they feel that the future of electric motorcycles is bright, and they will be sharing more information about their future plans in early 2021, they say. These responses, according to the people that have received them, still raise a question as to how committed Harley is to the continuation of the Livewire. It is a very expensive bike, and the future of electric bikes, I think, and other people think, is going to reside in much more economical, lower-priced bikes that people can afford and that have the adequate range and other characteristics, for city riding and for commuting as well. So, but the idea is that the LiveWire is supposed to serve as a halo model. It's supposed to serve as the top of the line model that draws people in, but but they would then really be interested in lower priced models and less performance oriented models that people want to use for commuting and for daily use. So if Harley pulls the models that they were anticipating would fulfill that middle and lower price bracket, then it would appear that the LiveWire is kind of pointless. And that Harley's commitment to electric bikes, in spite of what they're saying, is kind of at best ambiguous. So basically the news here is that Harley has generated some confusion, surprise, surprise, around what they're doing with their electric bike line, both now and in the future. And I think that's what I take away from the story.
Yeah. K2, or Mr. Turner in the chat, is saying that they have their virtual launch this next Tuesday,
right?
Which will be after the show comes out. They're announcing their hardwire 5-year business strategy, and we'll see what's in there. I think that'll be very telling if they don't have a lot of this stuff in there. I would expect it to even. I mean, we knew when they changed CEOs, things were going to get pulled. Them pulling the Bronx to me is just idiotic. I don't get it. I don't get it at all.
Yeah, that looked like it would be a very popular model for them and would draw people into their showroom.
It was the one that had the most buzz.
Right.
It's probably had next to the LiveWire and the Pan American. You put the Bronx up there. When's the last time there's been buzz for anything else Harley? I don't even think their current engine platform had as much buzz as those 3 bikes did.
Right.
So, but hey, what do we know? They don't put us in charge of multi-million, billion-dollar, $1 million businesses. They just let us talk about them ignorantly from the back of the room. So, all right. Well, if you guys can, tune in to see what Harley has there for their launch, and I'm sure we'll talk about it next week if there's anything worth talking about. And we'll probably just mention, hey, there's nothing worth talking about. So we promised the folks a trip to the paddock. So you want to go ahead and run with that one?
Sure. Although I would mention one other story that's close to home for me, and the significance of which is unknown, but it seems to have gotten a lot of coverage on the over the internet, and that is that the FBI raided the offices in Silicon Valley of Ducati. And nobody seems to know why they were doing this, what the problem is. Although one person or one source suggested that it had to do with some, quote, financial irregularities. So it doesn't seem like this is likely to affect anything Ducati in terms of their, showrooms, motorcycle sales, models, introduction, none of that stuff. But it is something that's been kind of plastered all over the motorcycle airwaves, and I thought I would mention it. So that leads us into the paddock, and the news that around the paddock is unfortunately a little bit discouraging because of the current exacerbation in the pandemic. It looks like there's going to be some changes already in the schedule for 2021. And some people feel that the introduction of the schedule for MotoGP in 2021 was optimistic to begin with. because they were anticipating doing practice sessions in Malaysia, and this Malaysia has been kind of overwhelmed with the pandemic at this point. So the practice sessions in Malaysia have been canceled, as Malaysia has declared a state of emergency. And so MotoGP quickly announced that they're going to cancel that, and it looks like they're maybe moving some of those tests to Qatar. And so they'll have, instead of I think 2 weeks of testing prior to the start of the season, they may actually have 3 or 4 weeks of testing in Qatar. And so, and it looks like, I think it's unlikely that they're going to have racing in Austin in April, which is when they're scheduled to be there. So there are going to be other changes probably this year. The races are going to be primarily in Europe, and they'll probably have some in Qatar, and that may be the season for this year. So we'll wait to see, and I'm hopeful that once the vaccinations get more widespread, that maybe things will start to open up again. But whether it will be soon enough to rescue the early part of the season is certainly in doubt, and that's the big question right now. So, we'll wait and see, and there will be a season, no doubt, but it may be different than what they anticipated right now. And that's it from the paddock for now.
Well, man, thank you as always for bringing something back. It's good to be talking about it again, though, some sense.
Yeah.
We're always looking for the brighter days out of all this mess we've been caught up in for a while.
Well, we will have a season, that's for sure. I think, and I'm hopeful that by summer and the fall that we'll be pulling out of this. So it looks like I think that the first half of the season that's going to be they're going to have to be flexible.
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree with you. Yeah, everybody still needs to keep their patience hat on and just roll with the punches.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, let's thank the Throttle crew members. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it. We wouldn't be able to get the lights on without you. If you're interested in supporting the show, if you get any value out of it, we'd ask that you go to throttledpodcast.com, scroll to the bottom, click on that Patreon logo. And I think you can go to patreon.com/throttled. I don't remember the full thing there. I should probably look that up.
You probably should.
I should. Yeah. And actually, hold on. I might be able to cheat just for a
second. Do it right now.
Let me see.
And meanwhile,
scroll to the bottom. Well, you know what? There it is. It is patreon.com/throttled is the site there. So, go to the website. We would appreciate it if you guys would click on the logo. Sign up as a supporter and a crew member. We could use all the help we could get, obviously. If you listen to the show, you know how true that is. All right. So, follow us on Twitter at Throttle Show, Instagram, Throttle Show, Facebook, Throttle Podcast. We do like getting mail from you guys. Feedback at throttlepodcast.com. Go to the website, throttlepodcast.com. Click on the contact tab. Fill that form out. We get it in the same mailbox. And that is going to do it for what I have. We do broadcast live. If you're interested in tuning in, Sundays, 7:30 Central, 5:30 Pacific. We do that on YouTube. If you follow us on Facebook and Twitter, you'll get a notification on that platform. And if you go to the YouTube site, go back and find one of our old ones, go back there and you can subscribe to that channel, and you'll get a notification when we hit the go live button. And sometimes, like tonight, you'll get two. I don't know what happened. We went live the first time, and then it just went, no, you're not going live. And we had to do it again. So it was kind of weird, but got it all worked out. At least everybody seems to still be there. So, Alrighty. Anything you want to add? Sign off with, Larry Band?
Well, it's been again a really fun show and great to have the guys in the chat. Their comments are wonderful as always and very interesting. I'm still engaged in the conversation there. What bike to step down to when the time comes. In the meantime, for those of you who don't have to worry about that, stay safe, stay healthy, ride safe, and have fun.
So I want to start off by saying thank you to everybody. Larry, you as well. If you have a topic, I don't know if you've noticed, but the last few shows, we've kind of switched from going to strictly on news, talking more about topics. Things we want to talk about are just talking motorcycles. If you've got something you want us to cover, whether, and really at this point, almost nothing's off
limits.
Thank you. That word. I was like, off color. I'm like, no, that's completely the wrong word. Yeah, off limits. So, feel free to send in some suggestions. Do it on Facebook. Send it over on Twitter. Email us. We'd love to get your suggestions on what topic you'd like us to cover. We would, it'd be a lot of fun to start doing some stuff and be able to know that you guys are asking for the content that we're producing. Outside of that, if you are able to get there and ride safe, be good, and we'll see you all next week. Thanks, everybody. And everyone in the live stream, thank you guys so much. You're awesome. I always point over here to my right because that's where y'all exist in my world, over here to the right. But thank you so much for being here, tuning in, and participating. It was a lot of fun having you. And we will definitely see you all next week, as far as I know. I don't have anything planned. So, good Lord willing, I'll be here.
I'll be here.
And hopefully we'll have Tom, I think he's coaching, and Chris, I think he got tied up with something else. So we'll hopefully get maybe a few more in, get some other opinions, and we'll see how that goes. Anyway, everybody, have a great time. We will see you all next week. Bye now.